Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the selection table. I'm joined by a couple of them. I'm just waiting for Mr. Paul, as I always am. But apologies do come from Lekdog, who is currently flying to my homeland as we speak. And also the great man, Ian, who has an important university assignment. So he is a late out. Paul is coming, but as usual, in new but old scenario, I've got the great man, Bucky, who's in a car. I hope you're not driving, Bucky, so you don't get pulled over.
No, I'm not, Tom. Yeah, thanks for having me on again, mate. No, I'm just down,
My
down at football training in, as you said, familiar territory in the car. So looking forward to just delving into this one. I've got to admit, Tommy, I'm a little bit toey about this game against the Cats. I know they're putrid off the bye, Geelong historically, and we were pretty good off the bye last year, considering we kick-started our season after the Essendon lost last year and went on that run. But I don't know. I didn't think the Cats were that bad against the Red Hot Sydney up at the SCG, and they may have found some confidence in that game. But in saying that, yeah, I think we're in better shape to take on Geelong than we were when we faced them. What was it in round 7?
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it, when we last played them? Like, so much has happened for us and so much has happened for them. But I agree with you. I feel like, you know what? I just recorded my preview this afternoon and I reiterated my line I did in my halfway point. I think this is, whoever loses this is out of the race for the top 2. I think it's so big. I think it's like an 8-pointer, this.
Oh, look, I haven't probably sort of looked at the numbers or in regards to, what we've got ahead or what Geelong's got ahead in regards to the difficulty of the draw. I mean, I know we've still got some tough matchups. I mean, Hawthorn no longer looks like a sort of 80-20 game in our favour. That sort of comes back more 60-40. We haven't faced them yet. The same with the Bulldogs. We haven't played them yet. That's almost looking nearly like a 50-50 game if you look at it that way, considering it's at Marvel Stadium where they play so well. But I tend to agree, mate. At the end of the day, Pommy, if you're fair income about finishing top 2, you've got to be putting Geelong away regardless of how good they are or, I think, like we've sort of set ourselves this opportunity to take them on again. I think it's formed beautiful. Look, it's a funny draw, isn't it? The fact that we're playing at Geelong again and we haven't even faced St Kilda or the Western Bulldogs or Hawthorn or the West Coast Eagles. But at the same time, it gives us a really good opportunity to see how far we have advanced since that round 7 game, because as much as we dominated possession and inside 50s and contested possessions and clearances in that game against Geelong, I think they really showed us up in regards to just who was a better efficient football team on that day, and that was Geelong. And I think we've tweaked it, mate, since then. I think we've become that more efficient football team, the one that can make the most of opportunities inside forward 50, score on turnover, score on transition. So we didn't do that against Geelong. We sort of banked on winning clearances out of the middle, smashing them inside forward 50, not having good synergy. So this one, we look at how far have we come against the quality opposition who play, I reckon, in a similar manner to what we do, if I'm perfectly honest. Or I think that's the way we want to play.
I agree with you. I've been consistent. I actually think the Geelong loss was the worst loss of the year. And I say that because Adelaide, I can cop being shit. The Sydney game, I can cop being shit. But the Geelong game was a game that top sides win that game. They get themselves in a position, and we saw Collingwood do it. They find a way. I thought that game, like you say, you just saw Geelong were just too smart, too good, too clever for us.
Yeah, I tend to agree, mate. I think they just had some weapons as well. Pommy, some guys that traditionally play pretty bloody well against us. And it's not just your usual suspects like Jeremy Cameron, who we know has got a really good history against us. Even when we beat them, was it last year we beat them early in the year? I think it was, and he still kicked 6 goals on that night. He kicked 5 against us in round 7. He's always a headache. That is going to be a fascinating matchup in regards to how we sort of tackle him. But even guys like Zach Tui, I think Zach plays with I don't know if it's a chip on the shoulder, but definitely plays with a real sort of determination to show Carlton what they're missing out on. I think he was superb in that game in round 7. He really made us pay. Particularly forward as centre, and his ball use is just superb. And yeah, I just think they've got some players that generally step up really well against us. And I would love to think that we're able to take away their strengths like we were able to do against Port Adelaide and also against Essendon as well. Now, whether that's Justin Cotter, he's going to be playing that shutdown role, but I think other players will get roles as well, which will be super important against their better players.
Mate, I agree. I think you've nailed it. Bevtone with the 5 gifted. You're a legend, Bevtone. We love you. And joining us, better late than never. He's gone with the classic Italian look. White T-shirt, gold chain, black hat. Mr. Paul Sebastiani.
You can see the chain, and you can't.
Hey, mate. Hey, mate, I can spot an Italian. Mate, I can spot an Italian.
And the beard growth from about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I think it hasn't taken long.
You
how are you, gentlemen?
This morning, knowing you.
Yeah, I did. I actually did. I did. How are your glasses, Bucky? I must admit, when you first came onto the channel yesterday, and I watched your preview, I go, "Oh, fuck it now."
I had a look. I'll let you know. I had a massive weekend. I went away with five. Yeah, I can't remember how many of us. 5 mates. We do it every year. This time we went up to Rye and went up on Friday night, and it did get messy. Like, it got really messy. Like, in a controlled manner. We didn't.
Of course.
We basically didn't leave the house.
We
just it was a lock in. And I broke 2 pairs of glasses in the shenanigans. I broke one. I broke a pair, which I can't remember on the Friday night, but definitely on the Saturday night, I fell asleep with a pair on and then rolled on them. Woke up in the morning with. A man's got to know his limitations. And,
correct, exactly. As
I'm
the
just
great
running
Dirty
around
Harry
at the
once
moment with 2 pairs of glasses without arms on them. So, when Pom puts the graphics up, I'll pop these glasses on, but I'm not doing it to myself tonight, boys, unless it's needed. I'm quite happy just to. All I could say, you actually look like George Clooney, if I'm perfectly honest. You just look superb, Palo. And Pommy, you look like Brad Pitt, mate, with these glasses, without these glasses on. All I can see is just a blur. Just a blur. My hearing's good, though. My hearing's okay.
I must admit, probably the funniest moment I think I've ever seen was your glasses lopsided to one side, and then you just say, Caleb Marchbank, his body's absolutely fucked. I was crying, mate.
The irony of that. But anyway, good to see you, mate. How did the big jumper punch night go?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing. Yeah, absolutely awesome.
Did you actually film that, or was it just?
We filmed the majority of it, and we got 3/4 of the way through, and then the battery went, and we couldn't really hook it up, unfortunately. But people had their phones out and everything, so it was a very, very successful night. Exceeded expectations, put it that way.
And will you release something of that in regards to?
Yeah, we will. We'll probably filter some videos out this week, just some interviews and chats with people we got up on the stage and some of the segments as well. So that was awesome. It was awesome. There were nearly 80 people there on the night. Big shout out to Nadia and the crew. They did an awesome job. So yeah, it was great. Hopefully the next one's with a premiership. That'd be nice.
Yes. Then a Mad Monday.
Mad Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It might be a week bender. Be careful of the glasses, though.
Oh, here we go. I think
maybe a Netflix special. Paolo.
Imagine that.
Maybe a Netflix special. But well, We'll start with Bucky. You've gone bold, Bucky. Motlop in, Carroll and Owies to the sub bench. Talk us through what you're thinking. We're starting to get cavalry back.
Yeah, look, I would have liked better news on Chera, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Look, I think being conservative is really important. So I'm not necessarily sort of demanding anything that he's not ready. It's just the fact that I don't know. I feel like as much as our midfield is lifted at really important times, particularly late in games when it's been on the line. And I talk more about Cripps and Walsh. They've just mowed it along, got going, particularly in the Port game, and then even against Essendon when the heat was on. But I feel like we're one quality short in there still, and that is obviously Adam Chera. So I would have loved to have been able to have him on board again. I don't feel that Carroll adds that. He had big opportunity against Essendon. He did a couple of nice things, boys. I think he set up a couple of goals with some deft touches, but really when you look statistically at 4 or 5 touches and really couldn't make an impact in a game where you would have thought he could have, had the opportunity to start. And would have loved Chera to come back, but I just think Motlop's ready. I think he's our best. I don't see Zach Williams really as a small forward. I see Zach Williams more as that hybrid. So I think Motlop is our best small forward. I thought his game in the VFL against Essendon was outstanding. He's had 3 games under his belt. The first 2 relatively quiet, but obviously it was about minutes and just getting his body right. And so I've brought him straight into them. I think he'll come in. I'm pretty certain he'll come into this team. He just adds something really special to our front half. He's electric. I just hope, boys, that he's ready to go with his defensive pressure. I think it lapsed at certain times last year, Palo. It was probably one of the reasons why he was dropped last year at one time, wasn't he? And went back to the VFL to find some form. I think his pressure was down. I just hope this time around, with the 3 games in the VFL, that he's ready to go with his defensive sort of traits as well, not just the electric sort of forward craft that he can offer. But I just love seeing him there. And against a team like Geelong, who've got a plethora of small forwards who are really dangerous, I think it's still one area that's a big question mark on us. That is the quality of our small forwards. I think we've got some really hard-working forwards who apply some good pressure, like Fogarty, and I think Owies at times can do that, but they're not the class of Motlop. So he comes straight in for mine. And I sort of tossed up between who was going to be the sub. I think Durden probably deserves an opportunity to start now, given that he spent 3 quarters. It's either that or he goes back to the VFL. I can't see him being the sub again. And I haven't necessarily thought that Owies has done anything outstanding. And I feel like that's probably the area they may rotate with the sub at the moment through the small forwards again. And unfortunately, Carroll is just not getting the minutes or the game time or the numbers to suggest that he's probably going to be something that we persevere with at this stage, even without Chera. But I'm liking what Elijah Hollins is doing in the midfield. I'm liking what Alex Jincotta is able to do in the midfield as well. So it's not like we haven't got coverage in there. We've got Kennedy on the bench as well. Who can play that role. So we've got plenty of high half forwards. Our wingers are in decent form. So I think we've got enough coverage in regards to midfielders. So Carroll for mine goes out. Maybe a little bit, not so much top heavy with our small forwards, but one of them obviously starts as a sub.
Like it.
I like it. I mean, Bucky, I agree with you about Motlop. I mean, I did think Motlop's game, I was quite harsh on him in the VFL because I thought his 4th quarter was diarrhea, to be honest. But his first 3 quarters, I thought, like, honestly, if you'd stopped the game at the 3rd quarter, I would have said, Jesus, man, like, this is what we're missing. He looks like he's found something. But I agree with you. I think it's time to bring him in. There feels like I think you nailed something there. You're not convinced of the small forwards. I'm not convinced, and the proof for me is Zach Williams is the best one at the minute, who 10 minutes ago was a half-back flanker and 2 years ago was potentially a midfielder. Like, I think that says it all to me. Like he's been there 5 minutes and he's the best.
And he's almost, I don't know, am I missing something here when I say that Zach Williams is almost starting as our deepest forward?
Yeah,
for a lot of for a lot of the time. It's not like he's pushing up the ground and becoming, going up to stoppages or, playing a high half forward role at times. He is with Charlie at times, and even deeper than Charlie. We are, in fact, isolating him, just like the opposition did to him when he was a defender, isolating them in the goal square. He is an extremely difficult matchup. He is a small forward, but he's got some other weapons in his armour, which suggests maybe with time he can start grabbing a few above his head as well. He's that type of player. So, I don't think we're going to have Zach Williams running up the ground and being that high half forward. Like, look, I think there's an expectation on all our small forwards, whether it's Owies, Motlop when he comes in, when Durden plays, that they do help out defensively. And what I mean by that they do buy into that team defence and push up to half back and do get deep at times. And that's why I think our small forwards, there's a balance between how much of that they do and being dangerous in our front half. And I feel like at times we ask a lot of them defensively. And that's why it's probably a starvation corner type role with our small forwards and high half forwards, because they are doing a lot of selfless running. But I think Williams is the one we are putting him deep and going, okay, mate, we need 2 or 3 goals out of you. And he's providing that. And that's why he is getting those opportunities, because he's our deepest forward.
Do you feel he's turned into like a pure finisher role? Because he doesn't seem to be and you made the argument there, he doesn't seem to be a traditional small forward. Like he's zippy to a point, but he doesn't have that. I don't know. He just doesn't have the traditional skill set of a small forward, but his finishing he just looks like he's in there as a pure finisher at the moment from what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think so. He's sort of, I agree, mate. Like he's an interesting player because he has got speed. He has got power. He plays dangerous. You know what I mean? Like if you are an opposition, and you're putting work into our forwards at the moment, you're now going, fuck, we've got to look after Zach Williams here. And it's almost like Geelong have to make a decision about who they potentially bring in to play on Zach Williams. They could go, okay, shit, Jed Hughes hasn't played all year, but he's probably our best shutdown player in regards to stopping that type of player. And whether Zach Guthrie's good enough to do it, they like him to run off a little bit more. So he's an extremely difficult matchup. I can't even remember who he had against Essendon. Can you remember who actually played on him? Who his direct opponent was?
I can tell you
off the top of my head. Do you know what? I actually find out of all the players we've put through there, he's probably the purest ball winner of the lot. So he knows where to be, and he knows how to find space to be able to find the ball. And I think that's in part due to the role and skill set that he had prior to moving into this role as well. And when I talk about finishing, I don't just mean goals. I actually mean finishing off the work inside forward 50. Like that kick he hit to Hollins off the 6. No, I mean, probably only Charlie could do that inside that forward line. But even Charlie's not that nimble.
I got a feeling the position isn't as foreign to him as probably a lot think. I know he's at the Giants he played predominantly as a defender, a running defender. Then he played a little bit of midfield, and he's pretty much. But I feel like in his junior football, he would have played quite a bit of this type of role. And he's got a natural flair for it. So it doesn't necessarily come as a huge surprise. I think what's come as a surprise is the magnitude of his impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah, spot on.
It's almost like shit. Every week he's making big impacts on games, and it just gives us such a different look. You know what I mean? A real different look, and it almost like we no longer go, we need Jack Martin back in. Well, look, I'm not saying we don't have Jack Martin back in, but we're no longer going, shit, we need Martin back. We need Martin back. Well, this is the role really that Zach Williams is playing. He's almost playing that third tour role, you know, that person who can hit the scoreboard and be creative in our front half, and if you need be, apply defensive pressure. So, yeah, I think it's been a great move by whoever it would have been, whether it was Voss or whether it was someone else within the coaching ranks who came up with that move. But it's been sensational.
It has been. It's been interesting to see him line up on Mac Andrew and Alia as well, which is
yeah.
He had Mr. Jake Kelly for 3 quarters, and Dyson Heppel for 1.
Radio. Okay.
Yeah, well, he took him to the cleaners. It's I suppose the interesting thing for me is who plays on Stewart. He hasn't played against us. The last 2 times we've played Geelong, he hasn't played.
Correct.
But who plays on him? Who gets that role? Cameron's the one that worries me the most. And I feel probably Bryon Issa as well. They're the 3 players that have been a little bit down, particularly Stewart. I don't think he's had anywhere near the year that he's capable of. Bryon Issa's last 2 or 3 weeks have been a little bit quiet, but feel like, I don't know, boys, I feel like a week off for the Cats, and I know a week off for us would be great as well, but don't know. I feel like they're going to be pretty fresh, and very good players, champions. I'm not saying Bryon Issa is a champion yet, but Cameron and Tom Stewart are. You can't keep them down for too long. I just hope we put the right work into those guys. You know what I mean? We pay them a lot of respect, because if we don't, we can just see it unraveling a little bit, because they are big impact players.
Yep.
And they get Dangerfield back as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel with Zach Williams, and this will just help me when I reveal my team, do you feel like Zach Williams has got a little bit of Willie Rioli about him? That when you watch how Port play, they kind of had the same issue as us last year, that they're trying to get their forwards to do everything, and it kind of they weren't intelligent enough to work out when to attack, when to defend. Well, when you watch Willie Rioli, he's inconsistent, but he has that gift of knowing, right, now the game requires me to attack and then defend when I have to. And I think you look at Willie Rioli's defence, you look at Zach Williams as well. They're rated above average for forward defence, but you don't really notice it. And sometimes I watch Durden, particularly Durden, he's guilty of this all the time. It kind of feels like the last words out of the office were, make sure you get some tackles today, and he forgets the attacking part.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't think this is the case, but it's almost like the natural instinct of being a small forward has been somewhat taken out of these guys. You know what I mean? Like they're the focus when you are young and are raw and you're coming into the system. It's all about defensive acts, defensive pressure, buy in, and it has changed. And I watched Corey Durden in his early years with us. He had some real flair about him.
Yeah.
Real flair. You know, hitting fronts of packs, roving the ball off packs, kicking goals from the boundary line. But I don't know if it's a confidence thing, if he's, you know, like, as you say, Pommy, it's been, you know, they think the last words that are said to him are, you know, get some tackles in, or, you know, lay a few bumps. But what about the last word being, mate, show us what you got in front of the scoreboard. Let's show some flair tonight. You know what I mean? We need some creativity from you in the front half. Like, I don't know. I mean, we're probably just assuming, but a lot of our small forwards seem to play that way without a lot of flair.
It reminds me a little bit, like, you remember last year, Durden scored some goals where he just ran through a pack. Like, the ball had come in and out of nowhere. That goal he kicked, I think it was against Essendon last year, and it was kind of like Mark Murphy versus Collingwood. He just came from nowhere, took the ball off the pack, banged it through on a tight angle, and he's gone mental. Sometimes I would love to know, we'll never know this, but they coach the instinct out of Dow. I do sometimes feel 2 years ago when we went real forward pressure heavy, did that affect the natural development of the guys? Where you look at other small forwards, Mears, who you've mentioned, his job in his first 2 years at Geelong was goal hang, stand in the goal square and take a couple of cheeky goals. And then as he got older, he added the repertoire of being a midfielder, being a tackle specialist, but they got him biting his teeth in goals. So that was his bread and butter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a good point, mate. You know, like, I mean, I feel like this is the one thing that could potentially hold us back. I still think there's a slight question mark on the quality of our tallish defenders outside of Whittaker, but they're coming along as a team defence. But I still think the thing that worries me the most about us, this is why I want Motlop back in, is the quality of our small forwards. You only have to look at what Lockie Schultz and Bobby Hill were able to do for Collingwood in that game against North Melbourne. I mean, it was Bobby Hill who turned that game, and it was Schultz who kept them in it early. You know, there's two forwards, different small forwards, but they're big impact small forwards, you know, and even Geelong, you know, Brian Myers, Tyson Stengel, Close is probably the more defensive small forward out of that trio. But every good team has got one that is real quality. You know, Sydney, Tom Papley, you know, Toby Green, Daniels at GWS. So I'm not saying ours are poor. It's just they are at times very underwhelming. So I feel like this is why we need Motlop back into the team, and what better way to do it is against Geelong, and hopefully he's ready to go. I feel like he's going to come in. I really do. I think he's had 3 games under his belt, and I think we're crying out for one of our small forwards to be that real live wire, that real spark to give us that real energy. And I can't see it. I like Owies. He kicks goals, but I just don't see it, boys. I don't see it. And unfortunately, I haven't seen it in Durden this year either.
I agree. No, I agree. And I did the same as you, Bucky. Motlop is in. Motlop is in. And you're going to love it tonight, because if you hate Pitternet, you're going to hear about him twice. I'm going to give you a little sneaky reveal. But I went into this game and I thought about it, and I tried to get myself in Voss's head. And I don't have Let Dog with me this week, who I knew would have brought Pitternet in. And then Paul cheated, and he did it as well. And I was like, okay, right, I'm doing it. But I've brought Pitternet in, so I'm going to explain it. I've moved Kennedy to the bench. Now, the reason is, I think if Pitternet comes in, over the last 6 weeks, we've started to see Voss shift magnets, which suggests to me he's got an eye on Cherry coming back and someone else. And I've looked last week, Kennedy did most of the relief ruck work outside of Harry. So that would say to me, Voss doesn't like Harry. He knows in situations how he's got to stay deep. You're not going to get rid of Cripps, who's helped in the ruck, so you get rid of one. So Kennedy is the backup for this game in my team. If it goes tits up, go back to what you know. Win the contested ball, have that extra body. But I think Motlop can play that higher up the ground, which is what he's been doing in the VFL. So I felt like Kennedy hasn't been the man. Durden goes back to VFL. Carroll goes back to VFL. And I want to see this forward line of Owies, Williams, and Mr. Motlop. I feel like that's the future. That's the long-term one. You've got Owies, the average, Williams, the X factor, and Motlop, who in his time has been defensive and aggressive. And I don't think we can hide it. I think all the media suggests we're a 2-ruck system, Pitternet and Mr. TDK. So I want to see it. I want to see it in this game, because I believe second on the ladder, they should fear us. They should fear us. So let's go with our best team, go with our strengths, TDK can stretch them forward, which he has been working on and looking dangerous around the ground. And I think Chincotta, the job for him's ready made. I think it's Tom Stewart. We've looked, the 2 games that Tom Stewart's died has been against Port Adelaide and Richmond. And they played Jack Graham on him, and then they played Willie Rioli on him. Both of them had 7 tackles, and Tom Stewart went at 50%, and their back half died. So I think our midfield matches with it. I love Holmes, incredibly talented footballer, but Dangerfield's 35. Tom Atkins is pants. I think Carlton should back themselves to win that battle or break even. I feel like that is the team. I really do feel I've got the team. But that is my team. I know Pittenet's in. You're all going to hate me for it. But there he is. There he is, Mr. Pittenet. Welcome back, baby.
Yeah, my concern with Pittenet, and it's not around, the fact that, that we look faster or slower or whatever that, whatever that is. My concern is how well TDK and how damaging he is when he's playing, let's say, 80% of the game as pretty much another on-baller. I know he's not perfect in the ruck. He's not awful. But his ability at ground level and his clearance work and his mobility has just been like out of this world since Pittenet hasn't been in the team. And when he plays as that standalone ruckman, whether it's I reckon Cripps did a bit of ruck work too, Pommy. I just remember seeing.
He did.
To be perfectly honest, I dislike seeing our midfielders jumping up in the ruck. It just looks shit, and I don't think it works. But I worry. My thing is, I worry more about TDK than the actual system itself. I worry about the fact that he's just been outstanding in that role, that damaging role, and he's made those more lumbering ruckmen look second rate with his ability to get around the ground, take marks, clearance work, long kicking, fast, aggressive. He looks hungry for that role. You know what I mean? He wants that role. He's matured. He's into a position now. He's 26 years of age. He goes, I want this. Now, I don't know. Maybe you're right, mate. Maybe this is what Voss is planning all along. I worry for TDK as being starting forward and coming in as that sort of almost pinch hit, because really it's almost Pittenet's ruck, nothing else, is it?
Yeah, and I agree with what you said there. I don't want to see the midfielders like it was Kennedy and Cripps did 70% of the ruck
and
when TDK didn't do it. And I think and Pittenet only plays 60% on average game time. So I think we're at the stage now. TDK does 70%, Pittenet does 30%, and utilise TDK for when the time is right. Do you know what I mean? Use the time is right. And I think TDK's strength is the third and fourth quarter. So if we can have the whole quarter where Pittenet is smashing and bashing and kicking ass. And, the argument that pisses me off is we're slow with Pittenet. And I'm like, he plays 58% of the game on average.
Yeah, I'm not buying
for me, kill Kennedy. Kill Kennedy or Hewitt and play him.
Yeah, I'm not sort of, as I say, I'm not buying into that, pace and all that type of stuff. I'm just thinking about the effectiveness of TDK and the unbelievable rich vein of form he is in. And is this what he's producing now? Is this the making of an absolute superstar who's just making us look unbelievable? You know what I mean? Like in regards to that mobile ruckman that just gets around the ground and wins high possessions and takes marks, and that's my only concern, and I don't feel like Pittenet. I think Pittenet offers, he's a big body. We probably win clearances a bit better when he's in the ruck, but that's my concern. How effective will the TDK forward work? What does that look like? does that make us a little bit slower in our front half? You know what I mean? Like you then got Charlie, you got Harry, you've got TDK. Then you want to play Williams, who's not necessarily that defensive forward that was spoken about. He's more your impact player. So it just throws the whole balance out a little bit. That's my only concern. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But I'm in agreement. I don't feel TDK can go it alone for the whole year. I really don't. There's going to be a time where he probably needs some assistance. Maybe this is the game that he needs some assistance. And I suppose it's who did TDK, did they both play against Geelong the first time? Can you remember that, Tommy?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And they played Reece Stanley, who was shit, wasn't he?
I think, to back your point, I agree. But every time TDK and Pitnet have played together, they have this obsession with playing an extra mid. Yeah. Where I think that's where it's flawed, because our extra mid is either Hewitt or Kennedy. And I love Bam Bam and I love Hewitt, but I just don't think, and I think Voss has shown, one of them plays forward. So that says to me, Voss has seen that's where it falls off around the ground. And I also think that affects TDK, because when you watch him play with Kennedy, Hewitt and Cripps, and that happens a few times in the Essendon game, TDK kind of looks a bit more lost because he hasn't got the movement with him. So I think now we've got Lidge playing in the midfield. Fogarty, Motlop, he's playing that Orazio role. Now's the time to trial it with the quicker players around him, and then Pitnet can do the 30-40%, and TDK can stay fresh for longer and smarter. Because I think eventually TDK, in his fairness, hasn't done this against serious ruck opposition week in, week out. It's got to be a 2-ruck system if that's Mackay, if it's someone else. And I don't think the Mackay thing is working, because he gets lost in the ground where we can keep him forward. And I think we look dangerous now when he's forward. Then moments against Essendon, when it was TDK in the ruck, Harry, Charlie deep with Zach Williams, we looked unbeatable. We looked unbeatable because it gave the freedom to everyone else. And I want to see Harry and Charlie as much as I can in the forward 50 on their own.
Yeah, I think it's a good argument, mate. I mean, it will be interesting to see which way they'll go tomorrow night. But as I mentioned before, you look at that, and it's not going to be the same every week for TDK, But I don't know about you guys, but it almost feels like he has exploded in that position. Yeah. He's a different. I mean, all ruckmen are different. All the best ruckmen bring something different. Tim English, Brodie Grundy, whatever it is, Max Gawn, the best ruckmen in the competition. They're not all the same. They're not all. Some are better at the hit out, some are better around the ground, some are better at marking, whatever that may be. TDK is probably more in the Luke Jackson mold. He can run, he can get on the outside, he can take marks around the ground. He's aggressive, he's strong, he's got great energy. So he's very unique in that way. And I would hate for that at this stage to be a situation where we go back to Pitnet and TDK. TDK's form drops away again, and then we've got to make another decision what we do. Feels like it's working at the moment with just TDK, but I do hear, Pommy, what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying in regards to playing both. My concern is I feel TDK's form drops away somewhat. Is he just a second string ruckman? And I don't feel like TDK's a forward. I just don't. I'm not convinced he is. I mean, he can kick a goal, but that generally, I don't feel like he's a viable forward.
I agree. I mean, I like TDK, like this week, seeing him swing behind the ball, where Mackay used to play, where he was the outlet ball. I think by accident, Carlton have found a way of stopping Mackay coming up to the wing, keeping him a bit deeper as the next kid, and TDK be that guy. So that's why I think this is the game. Geelong have no ruckman. You can play it here, and if it goes tits up, you can quickly rectify it. I think this is the time we see it, because I am telling you now, if Voss was here, he would say TDK and Pitternet are in my best 22. I just know it's happening. And that's no mail, just reading how he talks about him. That is the plan.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I'm sounding like a broken record. My concern is how good TDK has been since he's done it alone, and the rate of improvement, and how long would you think you'd be rucking for, Pommy? Like, what would your ratio be? Would you be 60-40 with it in favour of Pitternet?
Well, I mean, it's really interesting. Without Pitternet in the side, he jumps up on average to 62 ruck contests a game, which is the same as Brodie Grundy, Nankervis, and people like that. And without him, he just slides down to 56. So historically, when we've played him together, you're talking 10 ruck contests difference. So we're actually the model of Sean Darcy and Luke Jackson. So that's why I think it should be as close to 60-40 in TDK's favour.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, keep it there so we can keep him fresh.
Yep. All right, let's have a look at Palos. Let's have a look. What's he got? Has he got the big pit nay in?
I do have the big pit in.
Oh,
I've left this. There's two options, I think, with this team. So I've definitely Motlop just has to come in. There's just no two ways about it. He just has to play. I mean, what we're getting with our smalls and what we've had from our smalls in the first half of the season, what he did in the VFL last week or the week prior pales in comparison to what any of our smalls would have or have done at AFL or VFL level this season. So he was actually involved in the game for the majority of it. I think he's laid 6 and 4 tackles the last 2 weeks, and he's playing higher up the ground too, and he's actually having impact, which is something that I think we've been able to say about a lot of our small forwards. It's been an area we're crying out for. I think we'll finally get it this week. And at the start of the year, he was the bloke that played the preseason games, which suggests that he was the man who was ahead on the chart with regards to our small forwards. So I think he will play. Pitternet comes in. Carroll and Durden. I subbed Owies, but I think Kennedy can also. So I think Kennedy and Owies are the two options for the sub. I left Kennedy in just purely because of his versatility and his ability to play multiple roles. And I do think to a point the coaches do like that. And there is potential. And look, I'm not a massive fan of it, but it wouldn't surprise me if they go down the Kennedy up front role just to maybe negate some of the Geelong tools down in their back line. And I went Owies sub, but I think that can be swapped with Kennedy either way. So Durden comes out of the team to accommodate Motlop. And the whole Pitternet in thing, I think, is okay, because I think what you lose with maybe a midfielder in Carroll and potentially a midfielder with Kennedy, I think you get a bit more benefit with Pitternet too. His clearance game is abnormally high. The way he paves the path for our midfielders to be able to find space as well. And he's actually been... I think he's been really good around the grounds, Pitto, this season. I know he's not the most mobile player, but his fitness levels are quite high. And the only reason he's come out of the team, I believe, is due to that finger. Outside of that, I think he would have played nearly every game, I'd have thought. But TDK's spike, I think, has come because, clearly he's developed at a great rate, but he's had to take responsibility because outside of him, there's no one. And I don't like the whole midfield rucking scenario you mentioned as well, Bucky. Like, how many free kicks did our midfielders give away in the ruck last week? It was about 4 or 5. It just does your head in. You can't. Yeah. I know there are only 4 or 5 free kicks, but it just relieves all the pressure you build up around that scenario. And I don't like seeing Cripps and Kennedy and these blokes get thrown into the ruck. And Mackay, yes, maybe in the forward line as a ruck every now and again from a throw-in or something. But outside of that, and I'd like to see So De Koning will probably rest up forward for parts in the game if Pittonet does go in the ruck. And I actually wouldn't mind seeing how that forward line works with Fogarty, Williams, Mackay, Curnow, De Koning, and Motlop up there as well. We haven't seen it this year. So it's a completely different mix up there. And that actually might work in our favour, to be honest.
Yeah, look, the more you talk about the fact that it is really fucking messy when we are expecting midfielders to go up in the ruck. I mean, that was one thing I noticed from the Essendon game, and I didn't mention it in my review, but it was, now that you've mentioned it, watching Patrick Cripps and Matthew Kennedy go up in the ruck and give away free kicks and then looking surprised and it was somewhat, I wouldn't say embarrassing, but it's not. I mean, I always thought that we were going to have Harry play that role, but as Poppy said, it looks like Voss is really reluctant to do that, and maybe he hasn't. Yeah. Maybe around the ground, maybe at a centre bounce, he's okay, Harry. Because he can jump, but not necessarily at stoppages around the ground. So, from that point of view, I get it, and the more you talk about it, the more I can see it actually happening. And it's going to be bloody fascinating to see, what it looks like. Do we lose something? Do we lose a little bit of drive? You know what I mean? And I agree. I think Pittonet's form before he went out was reasonable. It's not like he was playing poorly. His clearance was pretty good. He's probably improved his marking a little bit. I mean, he's definitely got a big contested mark. So, look, I think you're convincing me more and more. I'm more concerned with TDK, that's all, because we're seeing a bloke that's, and it's not about the individual, it's about the function of the team. But we're seeing a bloke just in rich vein of form. Listen, boys, I'm going to have to run because I can see my big lanky son coming towards the car. I hope that's okay, Pommy.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. And much love. We'll finish this off and we'll pick the teams, and we'll between us be you, Bucky, when we save players.
Take care, boys. Next time I see you next week, I'll have a new pair of glasses. It's been a great
Cheers, mate. Much love,
I'll actually be really interested to see what your viewers think about the Pittonet and TDK thing as well. All right, guys. I'll speak soon.
Yeah, Bucky.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
See you soon.
And
well, Paul.
Number two.
We've managed to manipulate it so Pittonet's definitely in.
Yeah.
It wasn't planned, chat, but we did it. But I agree with you. You know what I did want to say when Bucky's left, so he can't hear this, but there's a little POM stat for you here.
Yes.
Geelong concede the second most goals in the AFL, the only team in the top 8 to feature in this, from key forward pairings.
Ooh. Okay.
So that's why I want Mackay and Big Dog Charlie up there as much as possible.
Okay.
Just leave them up there.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I do like that. I think that. Yeah. Do you know what? I wanted to make the argument about Pittonet as an extra. So I'm just looking at this from a pure output perspective, right? I think what we gain from removing an on-ball type like a Carroll or a Kennedy, I think those numbers that we gain out of Pittonet that we may get out of those blokes is also another strong case to bring in Pitto, if that makes sense. So they may not be position for position, Carroll and Kennedy, when compared to Pittonet. But Pittonet's numbers with regards to clearances and potentially the benefit we get from a domino effect around the ground may benefit us a little more, if that makes sense. So from our point of view too, and Walshy did say yesterday, and I know this is just how we want to play, but he did say field territory was going to be a very, very important part of this game, which would suggest to me that Pittonet is the man to come in, given our ascendancy with regards to clearance and scores from clearance when he does come into the team and scores from stoppage. So, and the only reason Pittonet really did come out of the team was because of injury, Pom. He wasn't forced out. He wasn't forced out. He wasn't out the team because of form. His form was great. And I also do think that the forward line of De Koning, Curnow, Mackay as keys in particular moments, because I do think we'll see that against Geelong if TDK doesn't rest on the bench when Pitternet goes into the ruck. With those three blokes up there and Fogarty and Williams and Hollands and Motlop around it, I do think it will function a little better, and we won't look as clunky up there, if that makes sense. We won't look as immobile around at the fall of the ball, if that makes sense. So,
you know what pisses me off, right?
Yeah.
Everyone always looks at the Sydney game and goes, Pitternet shit, right? And he got injured, right? But after that, Carlton brought back Sard. They brought back Cowan. McGovern came back full-time, full fit.
Fogarty.
Carlton then made a major shift where we've gone down 20% stoppage and clearance, and we've gone up 40% off the back half of the ground. It's obvious that's not personnel as well. That's a shift in structure as well. And people forget, Mark Pitternet, when Carlton last tried this, was the ruckman for Carlton's highest ever score from the back half, 98 points against West Coast Eagles. But he's also third against when we played Collingwood, and he was solo ruck as well. So that's the third highest score. So people forget it can be done. They just look at the Sydney game, but then I'd say the Sydney game, we had half a good side, bro. Marchbank.
Wiedering went down at half time.
4 goals.
Wiedering went down at half time, and personnel was cooked. And, and this is why I was saying in that game, we lost by 50 points. But, I mean, 50 points it's almost nothing these days, mate. It was more the performance, but, there were mitigating circumstances in that game, mate. A lot of mitigating.
I do feel for Pitternet because, you have Sam McClure, and Sam McClure's saying Carlton fans all want Marchbank in. I watched the Sydney game, and for me, that's the underlying Marchbank can never return. But evidently, everyone's underlying Pitternet can't return for a game that he had no fault in. Marchbank legit was at fault for 4 goals.
What if Sam says we all want? Did he say he wants Marchbank in, or that?
Yeah, Sam McClure reckoned that all of us are Team Marchbank, and I was like, what?
Fair enough.
I was like, hey, take your man bun and fuck off, mate. Don't speak for me.
I'm Team Calafiori.
hey, mate. Faz makes a great point. I've had people telling me that their marriages broke down this year because of Pitternet.
Oh, God, honestly.
I put a Pitternet mask on Zoe. It's like Viagra for me.
God. He's had a career best year. Anyway.
Tell you what, you want to see the stoppage and clearances I get when my missus puts her Pitternet mask on.
Also, this is what so people are correlating Pitternet coming out of the team with our recent spike in performances and results, right? I would argue, and you said that there are other players that have come into the team that have actually made that an occurrence. Fogarty, Sard, McGovern, these type of blokes. So,
you know what it is, though? Sometimes I think it's bias because I've been saying stuff like, since Chera's gone, Carlton are good. So I'll be trading Chera. Let's get rid of him. Fuck him off. It's all Adam's fault.
Yeah.
Hey, let's pick this team. Me and Paolo are going to do it differently. We have one each. We'll joint one. And I'm going to give chat, my lovely audience, 3 picks. So there's so much responsibility for your chat. So, Paul, who are you saving first in the back line?
I'm going to save the man who didn't play against the Cats last time, and that's Mitch McGovern.
So Mitch McGovern's fault. We lost to
I would have gone with Pep Guardiola.
Mitch McGovern into the centre half back. I'll make it. I'll pick the other guy.
Yes,
because It's Mark Pittenet's fault. Carlton worked quick, but our quickest player wasn't there. So,
dearie me.
So Pittenet doesn't get blamed for being slow. Put Sard in, help him out. And who shall we agree on? Are we going to agree on Wheat or him?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the obvious one.
I think he's too slow, Paul.
Yeah. Right. He's a League Two player with the press.
So, chat, you need to pick three. You need a back pocket, and a half-back flanker. We didn't... AP... Hunter, it's a real funny thing, because when people look at losses, they always seem to forget who we didn't have. Like, it's weird, because you get so used to who you see. But
correct.
Like that's why I just think it's funny when everyone's like, "Oh, Pittenet," and I'm like, he got injured at like half time, and half the team was out. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I wish it was Pittenet.
Yeah, well, and Williams was playing down back at that point in time, and we had Young as our full back, and it was one of those days. One of those days.
I reckon Young looks at that game where everyone blames Pittenet and kind of rubs his hands because he was like, "I got away with it. Got away with it." Cheers, Pitt. Cheers, mate.
He was bobbing that day. He was Boyd.
Old Young EA. It looks like Boyd.
Yes.
Cowan and Kemp.
Yes, that makes sense. I have a question, right? I have a question. Who is? So did you? Who did you? Sorry, I missed who you had. Cincotta. So Cincotta, who did you have him going to?
Thomas, Anthony, Stewart.
So, did you? So, just looking at our back line now, did you have a Sard or Boyd going to Stengel? Is that how you saw that play out, or could Cincotta go to maybe play a deeper role and potentially play on Stengel? Because we've seen Cincotta do that earlier in the season with Papley and Hill to pretty good effect. Is that maybe a move that they could make?
I've got a feeling that, you'll see someone like... I wouldn't be surprised to see Cowan get first dibs on Stengel, just because we've seen Cowan... He seemed to give him the job on Martin when Martin went forward.
Yeah,
I've got a feeling Cowan gets Mears or Stengel, because they're the two that float into that midfield. And I'd imagine Newman will get the other one, because it seems to be the Newman lockdown role now.
I actually think we should go with the suggestion earlier in the week that someone has to now tag Cincotta.
I love Paul Hill's comment. Like, I think he's spot on earlier when he said, when a team's going to start worry us. I look at our team and I start to think, how do they stop these guys, though? Like, Max Holmes is good, but who the fuck's stopping Cripps, Walsh, and Hewitt?
Yeah. I think it was the whole scenario. I remember going back to opening round against Brisbane. We were saying, oh, geez, they're a good team. But then you look at it, mate, our team's not too bad as well. Our team goes all right as well.
Do you know what I mean? You got to. And by the way, chat, we're starting Newman on the bench, which means he is playing the tagging role. So we've probably nailed this here. Paul, midfielders, who are you going with first?
We're going with the centre line here.
Yeah,
we're going to save the man who. Yeah, we're going to save the man who nearly single-handedly won us the game against Geelong last time with those 2 goals in 30 seconds. Blake Acres. Yep.
He does like playing these mob.
He was a little bit down against the Bombers. Thought he was a little bit down, a bit fumbly. Didn't really get involved in the game as much as he probably would have liked. But, I'm expecting a bit of a spike from him. He's had a great season.
I've got a feeling that we'll see our wings play well. The wings have got to play well against Geelong, because that's like their susceptibility. Yeah. So I agree. You know what I'm going to do? Straight in. I'm saving Pittenet. Don't care anymore. Don't care.
He'll put in the shift.
Joey, just gone straight in. Hate me all you want. And we've got to agree on one. Who are we going to save captain?
Yeah, but you know what? Can we save Ollie?
Okay.
Can we say? You said the wings are important in this one. Let's save the opposite wing.
There we are. Ollie. Ollie is saved. Paul Hunter asked in chat, who are we playing on Jezza? The Jez dog.
Do we start with Gov? Is that the matchup?
Yeah, that's one thing I don't want to change. I've liked Whittaker in shift to a pure lockdown fullback. Like, I don't want to see that change because I think it looks good.
Yeah.
Because I'm more scared of Hawkins than Cameron. And do you want to hear my theory why? I see loads of games where Cameron kicks 6-8 goals, but they still win by 1 or lose like they did last time when we played.
Yeah.
Like, I'm more worried about the people who add goals to him.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah, good point. He's almost like one of those players where you almost accept the fact that he's going to... No, not that you accept it, but it's like, okay, well, we're going to do what we can to negate him, but there are going to be times where you just... You can implement all the tactical nous and all the negating roles that you can put on this bloke. He's just going to get you because he's a good footballer. It's like Pep Guardiola said it about Manchester City when they played Real Madrid. He said, mate, we can dominate as much as we want, but a team like them, they're eventually going to have their moments. A player like him's eventually going to have his moment. It's just how we curtail it and get it back the other way. You've got to stop the supply, mate. We did to a point against them last time, but it was just the team defense that let us down,
Mate, I'm with you. Like, I just think, like bevtone, like you said, too good. He's too good. He's gonna have. Yeah. He's gonna have that 5-minute spell.
All we can do, Pommy, in those situations is, all you can do is play the percentages. Force him to have shots from 55 out. Force him to. I'm happy when he moves up the ground. It doesn't bother me, mate. Play up the ground. I don't care. Get him as far away from goal as possible, right? But.
Mate, that's what he does. He's basically like Harry Mackay. He likes to go, be the conduit, be the link. I'm more scared when he isn't kicking from 60 and he's trying to distribute inside 50.
Yeah.
Like, if we can make him kick 60 out and he has 6.
That's the thing. Play the mate, you play the percentages. Like, even that game that he kicked, when was it? The game that he kicked 5 against us last year, or whatever it was, 5 or 6 goals. He was kicking goals from 55. As a coach, what do? You play the percentages. You have to play the percentages, and you just put your hand up and just say, mate, what can we do? We did our best to curtail him. He's just a freak.
Mate, that game last year, which we won, where he kicked so many goals, he was kicking so well that he could have got his dick out and hit the ball, and it would have gone through. It was disgusting. But chat, while we were chatting, you saved Cripps, Hewitt, and Walsh. We're on to the forward line. Who we saving, Paul?
Well, we got it. Yeah, I think you went over him just before. We've got to save Lidge. Yep.
There he is. Walk-up starter now.
Yep.
Walk-up star. So we've got Chincotta and Lidge.
Bang. Done. There it is.
Who are we joint saving? Who do you want?
You know what? Can we joint save Motlop? Is that too...
Mate, let's fucking do it.
Is that too much? I like making the hard calls.
Hey, there you are. Hey, tell you what, though. Like, I've just been thinking, we've still got Sherrod to come back.
I know.
And already, you could name any 3 players now in AFL history, and that's a pretty strong 18.
It is. It is.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it is very strong.
Like, I'll just prove it to you how strong this team is while you put your 3 forwards in chat. But look, if I did this... Look how fucking strong that team is. Honestly, that is quality.
Very good. Very good.
Pom bringing back Pat Kerr for Bants. So it looks like you've gone Kerner, Fogg, McKay, Z-Will, Fogg, Zach, Fogg. Okay, Fogg.
Fogg, yep.
I'll tell you what, that looks better than Sam Kerr, Paulson and Levi.
It's pretty solid.
It looks good. Right, so we've got our extended bench chat. And Paul, which of these players are we saving?
Well, Tom de Koning. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious.
It would have been quality if we dropped Tom. After bigging him up offshore.
Pedo in, Tom out.
Fuck him. You know what? I'm going to save Z-Will.
Yes. Just
because I'm going to make someone kill Bambi. Joint save, surely Nick Newman.
Well, Nick Newman, yeah. Now, see, these next two are interesting, right? Because I think you can go either way with all three of them. So if you want a bit of versatility and you want to go midfield, half-back flank, up forward, Kennedy's the one. But if you want to go pure forward, you go Durden Owies.
I agree.
And Durden can also potentially play that, pinching midfield role too.
You see, I agree. Like, it's a tough one here. Because
So I'll look at this, right, and say, okay, well, we play against Geelong, right? So say to a point, right? So so I'm putting the cap on of not defensive, but I'm putting the negating cap on and saying the horses for courses cap on and saying, okay, so we want to play a certain way and Kennedy might not be in that. But for this game, is Kennedy an optimal pick as a player because he can potentially negate the tall, because he can potentially play as another forward, because he can play on the ball if we need him. He's got multiple roles that he can nail down, whereas the other blokes are probably a bit more specialist in their roles, if that makes sense. So how do you go about that? Do you go one way or the other? Do you go horses for courses, or do you go with a bit more of an attacking brand and look towards the long term? I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, you see, like, the always one, like, I agree with Hunter. Like, he's guaranteed goals. But then, like, it would be interesting to have this conversation in 10 weeks if Zach Williams keeps it up.
Yeah.
Because if Zach Williams keeps doing what he's doing at the moment, you could then maybe make an argument to be a bit creative with the forward and be like, okay, well, Durden might do fuck all, but if he does do something, he's probably a more X-factor player than Owies.
Yeah, okay, yeah, interesting. Yeah, fair call.
Like, because I don't want to sound negative on Zach. He's had a great start.
No, I know what you mean.
But, like, if you held a gun to my head and said, will he get 50 goals if he plays it in a year? I couldn't answer confidently. I'd be like, well, I remember Cam Paulson kicking goals 2 games in a row, and he's currently working at fucking Pack and Save. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you just don't know, do you, long term?
The sample size out on the field is too small to get an absolute gauge on. But all you can do is go by what you've seen for now.
Yeah, because he looks good. He looks good. But you just never know, do you? Like, if he goes 2 games without kicking a goal, is it just confidence is flying?
Yeah. Well, they're all judgment calls, aren't they? And ultimately, ultimately as a coach and as a manager and at team selection, that's what you're going to be judged on, aren't you? Those calls that you have to make one way or the other.
Yeah, mate. Spawn, it looks like you guys have gone the way I would do. Bam Bam and Owies looking at it.
That's the way. And I think either way as a sub, one of the two, I think both work well anyway, because Kennedy's got the versatility if you want to play him as a sub, and Owies has got he's the energy provider if he has to come on as a sub. So I think either way it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think always his reliability gets him ahead of Durden.
It's spot on, but that's what at the end of the day you have all these factors that go into you being in a team, right, as an individual, and then factors like that come in, and you think, oh well, maybe Durden might be the better X factor player, maybe Martin, but these blokes are available. Always is available. Always is fit.
Yeah, I love this comment as well about Cottrell and Chera. Like if you replace that right now with Cottrell, Chera, Jesus Christ, that team looks.
There's your team. You know,
it looks formidable, doesn't it? Like, it looks formidable.
Yeah.
I agree. I think we've nailed that. I actually reckon I'm going to go on record. That's the team. I reckon.
You're
I
on
reckon
record.
Voss is sat having a cigar and drinking half a mild and going, "Fucking hell, that's the team."
Yep. I think we could be right. I think we
Paul,
could be
what
right.
are you up to for the rest of the week, my good man?
Work tomorrow morning. We've got SEN tomorrow morning. And then I've actually got a few days off. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I've actually got a few days off. Might need the trumpet blown in the background. No, just a cruisy week. Off to the footy on Friday night. And then I'll put the feet up for the weekend and just have a nice relaxing one for once. So, Jumper Punch will be back on Tuesday. Untitled Blues podcast will be recording next Tuesday as well before the injury update. And that's that. That is that, my friend. And yourself?
I've just had a POM. I've just put the link in for that. We've got a new video I did with Terry. Terry was a guest on this channel.
I've got to go watch that, actually. I have to get the insight and the information as to exactly how these, I mean, they haven't been implemented yet, but how the draft points and how paying a bit more for father-son and next generation academy players are going to affect us and how it's going to affect the competition moving forward. So I think a lot of people are up in arms about it, which I kind of understand, but unless you actually look deeper into it, I don't think anybody really knows what's going on. But
So I had a go at being Pommy Kane. I became Laura Kane.
Yep.
And I did a long-term vision of fixing the AFL trade draft because I am of the school that we should do it next year, but fix everything. Don't just do one thing.
Yeah. Good call.
And I went into that. I've got my preview coming out tomorrow. I'm doing something with the Hoops boys for this Geelong game.
Nice.
And that's about it, really.
Nice.
Then I'll be a dickhead on the watch along.
I was going to say, Friday night you've got the watch along, so cheer them home, mate.
Do you know what I mean? I'll cheer them home and get abused by people from Geelong because for some reason they hate me.
Well, you won't be able to hear them, mate, because their ground's like a library. So,
so I'm looking forward to that. But thank you very much. Much love, sirs. Thank you for the lovely comment. Cheers, everyone in chat.
Hey, guys.
We'll be back next week. See you soon. Go Blues.